first thing I was curious about was just how you got involved in the project. I know that you and Luke Baines like worked together before in Shadowhunter. So is this one of those just like, hey, I have this great idea kind of start?
A little bit of both. I actually originally met Luke because of Nick Simon, who is the director and co-writer on this film. I was supposed to do the film that Luke and Nick did together, Girl in the Photographs, years ago.
Mm.
And we all met through that audition process, and I was unable to do it because of schedule, but I've wanted to work with Nick since then because I just think he's brilliant and we have so much fun together. And same with Luke. You know, that's what's the beauty of when you work together so closely with someone for so long and are friends with someone for so long. Working with them just becomes an absolute joy. And especially someone as wonderful as Luke Baines. I mean, how can you not love him? So they called me about a month or two into the pandemic and said, "Hey, we have this idea. We wrote this script. We think we can shoot it on Zoom and you're gonna do it, okay?" And I went, sure, why not? You know, we were all at a point where we were so starved for any kind of not only social interaction, but just something that felt creatively productive. And I thought, you know, this script is actually really fun and let's go for it. Let's experiment. Let's see what we can do. That's what we do as artists. We take our given circumstances and our obstacles and we overcome them and make something that will hopefully entertain people.
So about that obstacle, there's so many things and like hats that you all had to wear aside from, starring in the movie. You also had to work on filming it yourselves while being directed, of course, like and consulted with doing makeup, doing lighting, doing like your own wardrobe. So out of that whole process, what was the most, I guess, challenging or even just surprising thing about wearing so many hats?
I think there were a few things. First of all, set decking my house was a whole other because I went, okay, I'm not just gonna use my house. I want to make it Chrissy's house. So what can I do with what I already have in my house to change it up a little bit? Which ended up being really fun. It was a, mini redecorating project. But then when you bless our DOP, our director of photography, Kevin Duggan, because I've always had such respect for directors of photography. The way that they use light to sort of paint in real space,
Yeah.
it blows my mind. It's always felt like magic to me. And then suddenly I'm responsible for placing the lights myself and thank goodness Kevin was so patient with all of us in setting up our cameras and our lights and going, okay, put this over here and put a paper towel over it and take this one over here and
Mhm.
put this lamp upside down on the floor and cover it with a t-shirt. And then it just all these little things that he walked us through that made it seem relatively simple and give us at least a little bit of a modicum of understanding of what that might be. I'm now a monster when it comes to self tapes and like set up lights and get, fun with it sometimes when I feel inspired. Um, but honestly, I think the most nerve-wracking part for me was wrapping at 3 in the morning and them going, "Hey, can you transfer that footage onto a hard drive and then upload it and then make sure you don't lose it or mess it up?" And I'm going, "We've all just spent all day doing this and I'm dead tired. And if I mess this, it's 4 in the morning. And if I mess this up, what are we gonna do?" um, Thankfully, it all went swimmingly. Again, because of Kevin's patience and instructions and kindness of his heart. But
So in Untitled Horror Movie, you play Chrissy, who is so much fun. I think honestly, I think she's the best character out of everyone because you get to be both outlandish and fun and kind of new agey, but then at the same time, your character sees a lot of like the big scares in the movie. So one thing I was curious about is when you were playing Chrissy, how did you balance the humor with the like genuine like I am terrified?
for me, the through line with Chrissy was always commitment. Whatever she's doing, whether it's her job or her friends or her belief system, she commits. She is 100% invested in everything she does. And that's sort of also what I love about her. She's very well intentioned, but very underinformed. And as she goes through this story, she really gets the brunt of the emotional roller coaster. But that made it a lot of fun for me. Just getting to, throw myself around my house and having to knock on my neighbor's door and go, "Hey, I'm going to be screaming, let me out, I can't get out," and rattling my doors and banging on the walls all night. But don't worry about it, it's fine. So everything's okay. Don't call the cops. It's fine. It's wild.
Oh man. So speaking of throwing yourself all around, obviously during the pandemic you couldn't have any stunt doubles to do any of these like physical takes. So and there's even a little like joke about that in the film as well. So I was curious, as an actor, have you done any of your own stunts before? And if so, what was it like compared to do this one in your house?
I was fortunate enough to have worked on, because of Shadowhunters and Arrow and Maze Runner and all of these things, to our Shadowhunter stunt coordinators, they spent so much time training me. I would be with them 3 to 5 days a week, and because they were kind enough to see that I was motivated and wanted to learn, and so they taught me, and I learned so much and did actually the majority of my own like fighting and stunts on the series, aside from the things that are deemed too dangerous for actors to do. And in that case, I had an incredible stunt double who made me look great. And we sort of built that movement style together. But that's what's so great about the Shadowhunters family, is that we were able to call upon some folks that we'd worked with in the stunt department to go, okay, these are the resources we have. This is what we want to achieve. How do we do it? And she sent us a video of tutorial of how to do these stunts in your house and how to make these things what they would do if they were in our shoes. And so in the same way that you would go to a stunt rehearsal, we sort of had a virtual stunt rehearsal and were able to kind of learn how to do it. Now, granted, there was a moment when I'm throwing myself across my house head first that I go, I'm alone in my house. It's a pandemic. I am on Zoom with these people. If I get hurt or break my neck or any of these things, it's not like being on set where you have a medic right there who's going to help you if you need anything. Interesting. But yeah, again, commitment. That's where Chrissy and I connect in a lot of ways.
So the script in general is uh, making a lot of fun about Hollywood in a lighthearted way, and like the ins and outs of being an actor, and being on contract, being on shows, and whether or not they get canceled. So I was just curious if any parts of it was just really cathartic to act out and to be able to kind of poke fun at it, like, all right, like I see you network, but also like ha, ha, ha.
Well, I think for a lot of us, it was very fun to create sort of a satirical comedy version of that waiting game that we all play. I mean, we've all been in those situations where, and even I feel it's a very human thing, whether you're waiting for your college acceptance letter or for results of a job interview or to see if your television series is picked up for another season. There's that waiting game of going, I have all of this energy that it needs to go somewhere. What do I do with it? And how do I cope with the unknown? And I think that coping with the unknown is a lot of what people have been dealing with for the past year and this past kind of period of time that we've been going through. So, hopefully we didn't mention the pandemic at all in the film itself, because we felt like there was enough of that on people's minds. But what we sort of did address that relates to it is that feeling of, I don't know what life is going to bring for me in the next several months. I don't know what life is going to be after this decision is made or after, all of these things come to fruition. How do I cope with that? And the different ways in which all of the characters kind of cope with the unknown is very interesting.
For sure. And so there's one question I wanted to ask for our readers specifically who love your character, Mia Smoke, and I feel like they would slay me if I didn't ask. So is there any chance that Mia's character might pop up in the Arrowverse sometime soon?
I mean, listen, there's a lot of things happening in the Arrowverse right now on all sorts of timelines. And if there's one thing we know about the Arrowverse, if you're not dead on a slab, there's always a chance that they can bring you back. So I always say I love Mia so much. She's very near and dear to my heart, and I'm so grateful for every bit of storyline and every bit of character development that they were so generously gave to me in my time there. And absolutely, if they need somebody to run around in a green hood and shoot some arrows, I'm your girl. I am there. I would jump at the chance to go back.
And my last question is, are there any horror roles that you're looking out for or keeping your eye on, or any kind of properties in the horror realm that you're like, I would love a stab at that?
I mean, I love horror movies and thrillers and things like that. I kind of grew up on them, and it's It's something that I truly love. I will say, I got to do the Stand miniseries earlier this year as the huge Stephen King property, and I love Stephen King. I love the way he creates characters and sort of the worlds he creates and the way in which he kind of always has some sort of allegory going on. I find it fascinating. So anything of that nature, I would absolutely love. But I'm always down to run around from some demon or other nefarious source, or be one. Who knows?
Oh, I would love to see you be Demon. It'd be so cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was my last question. Thank you so much for your time. You've been great.
Thank
Uh,
you so much.
thank
My pleasure.